The death of Pastor David Jeremiah. A special day. On December 28, 2024, as the sunlight faded behind the trees in the golden hues of winter, St. John's Church in the heart of California welcomed a day that none of its congregation could have anticipated. The atmosphere outside felt heavy with something mysterious. A thin mist lingered on the treetops, and the sky was overcast, as if mourning for what was about to unfold. It was a day when emotions would be compressed, a community's heart would be tested. Each wooden pew in the church was meticulously prepared, with fresh flowers carefully placed at the pulpit. Christmas had just passed, and the air was still filled with the vitality of the holiday season, but within each heart lingered a weighty premonition. Pastor David Jeremiah, who had led them through many years, was preparing for his final sermon, a sermon he believed would leave a profound mark on everyone, a message from heart to heart. He had spent much time pondering the content of this sermon. He knew his health was not what it once was. Aches and pains had become uninvited companions in his daily life. Despite this, his spirit remained strong. His heart was overflowing with love for his congregation. "I must do this," he often reminded himself as a form of self-encouragement. "It is my duty." As the gentle music began to play, each member of the congregation entered the church, their faces reflecting eagerness, waiting to hear the words from the pastor they held in great respect. They had witnessed moments that made their hearts ache as he shared his pain, regrets, and hopes. Many had grown up with his sermons, finding faith and learning how to face the difficulties and challenges in life. As the bell tolled, David Jeremiah appeared from behind the white pulpit door. He wore a holy white pastor's robe, holding a Bible, his eyes filled with warm and compassionate light. He approached the pulpit, scanning the church with his gaze, seeing familiar faces, children, parents, and the elderly all turned toward him. The final sermon. The sermon began with carefully chosen Bible verses. His voice rang out softly yet powerfully, captivating every member of the community. "Today, we will talk about love, the love we share for one another, the beautiful things we can give." He paused briefly, allowing those words to sink deep into the listeners' minds. Love is not just an emotion, it is a choice. It is an action. It is the driving force that allows us to overcome doubt and hardship. The last moments of life. After the sermon ended, the atmosphere in St. John's Church seemed to warm up and fill with a profound stillness. Members stood one by one, applauding and expressing their appreciation for the beloved pastor. David Jeremiah felt that the applause resonated with the heartbeat of the community, a sincere affection from the souls of those who cherished him. But within him, an unusual heaviness settled. He stood at the pulpit, gazing into familiar faces, yet he felt a distant gap as if he were living in a dream. Sadness and anxiety were building within him, amplifying the weight of his heartbeat. Despite pouring all his love into the sermon, he was acutely aware of his declining health. The pain persisted, tearing him between desires and reality. Like in previous days, David had promised himself never to let pain dictate his life. He had experienced many ups and downs, from mental storms to moments of despair. But now, in this decisive moment, he understood that part of the battle he had fought was left within him. It was a moment of acceptance and understanding. Returning home that evening, the air in the room felt as if it were quietly negotiating with itself. David settled into his familiar armchair, where he had spent countless hours reading, writing, and praying. He pulled out the Bible, his fingers gently gliding over each page, feeling the warmth of its teachings. The words provided him comfort, and now he felt an overwhelming gratitude for the life he had lived. Every memory, every individual he had helped flashed through his mind like vibrant pages of a living book. Suddenly, pain surged through his body, waking him from his beautiful memories. The pain radiating from his chest signaled something. Nevertheless, he reluctantly brushed aside that negative thought, resolutely deciding not to let anything harm his mind. In that moment, David prayed, asking God for strength to endure the challenging times to come, vowing never to abandon his mission. It was a night filled with restless thoughts and pain as he faced himself amidst a struggle that perhaps seemed unwinnable. As dawn broke, the pain still would not leave him. David woke up early, taking time to pray and seek peace for his soul. He stepped outside, breathing in the fresh air, admiring the beauty of nature. The trees swayed, the birds chirped merrily. Together they painted a vibrant picture of life. But inside him, there was an emptiness, a worry he could not shake off. Could this be the last time he stood in the sunlight, feeling the warmth of life? Throughout that day, he sought ways to fill the void. He called friends and congregants with whom he had shared many meaningful moments. Unfortunately, each time laughter rang in his ears, he felt an overwhelming sense of guilt, as if he were robbing them of their joy. I cannot continue like this, he thought to himself, but in an instant, he told himself not to let worry invade his soul. He had always been a source of hope for others, and now he needed to do that for himself. That night, David decided to write a letter to the community. In the letter, he expressed his deep gratitude to everyone who had accompanied him, those who had inspired and motivated him over the years. He wrote that no matter how surprising life might be, he still believed in the love and light that God had for each of us. Continue living with passion and hope, for every day has its reason to face the rain and shine. He concluded the letter with words he hoped would continue to resonate in their hearts. As he went to bed, his heart felt at peace, yet his deep-set eyes held an incomprehensible sorrow. Perhaps this was how he would part from the world, through love, through heartfelt messages. The bad news. Time flew by, and by the morning of December 28, David felt a growing pain in his chest. He knew it was time to seek help. Mary, his trusted companion, was the first to come to his side, caring for him like a gentle mother. Her demeanor was always filled with love, making David feel at ease. Those hours with her felt like a tonic for his soul amidst the storm of his inner turmoil. When Mary noticed his pallor, she worriedly asked, "David, do you want to go see a doctor? Perhaps we should do something." He temporarily set aside his work, hoping to find a sense of safety. Yet deep down, he knew that it might be their last encounter. Fear and restlessness surged in his heart. "Perhaps today is a special day," he whispered to himself as he looked out the window. The sky was overcast, and the cold wind swayed through the trees outside. He reminded himself that whatever happened, he would leave an indelible mark on the community, a testament of love and empathy. The call came unexpectedly and unprepared. Mary, with a worried gaze, took the phone and put it aside when the voice on the other end delivered the news. Time seemed to stop, and everything around them collapsed. "David has passed away," the weak voice said. Each word struck her heart like a sharp blade. Grief and sorrow bore down on everyone. They could not have anticipated that their beloved pastor had quietly departed without a chance to say goodbye. Mary stared blankly ahead, her eyes brimming with tears. A sense of emptiness overwhelmed her, blurring the lines between reality and illusion. Tears streamed down her cheeks as if falling directly into her cold heart. The church they had built together, where David had poured all his passion, now felt empty and filled with sorrow. As the news spread throughout the community, each face expressed shock and disbelief. An instant silence fell over the crowd, like a wordless memorial service, where tears transformed into silent tributes, and all were silent in remembrance to honor a life devoted to humanity. The crowd began to gather outside the church, warm embraces and expressions of condolence ringing out. They stood together, holding hands, creating a safe space amidst the tumult of emotions. Young people, children, and the elderly recounted their cherished memories of David, recalling the chapters in life where he was the main character. Recollections of love-soaked stories seemed to soothe their pain, but they could not erase the reality that they were losing an important person. "Do you remember when he visited me in the hospital?" An elderly woman, Susan, began without prompting. "I was so desperate, but he sat beside me, held my hand, and told me I still had much to live for." A man nearby nodded, feeling the words resonate deeply within him. Then news of Pastor David's death spread like wildfire, reaching those who had never met him. They heard about the things he had done, the miracles he had brought into the lives of others. They listened to tales of his sermons and how he always inspired those around him. Pastor David wasn't just a pastor, he was a friend, a leader, a light in dark times, one congregant remarked. In the midst of sorrow, plans began for his funeral. It would not be just a simple prayer service but an occasion for everyone to express gratitude and appreciation for what he had done. They decided they would hold a grand ceremony, where everyone could come together, reminisce, and find ways to continue living by the values and spirit he had imparted. The funeral. The funeral unfolded in an atmosphere heavy with emotion. Each pew in St. John's Church filled with elders, parents, and children, all carrying the pain of losing a loved one, a soulmate. Soft candlelight spread a warm glow, easing the somber atmosphere. Fresh flowers adorned every corner, honoring the pastor they all cherished. Mary stood amidst the crowd, her voice carrying through her tears. "David was a light in my life and in the lives of so many. He gave us hope and showed us how to love unconditionally. Not just a pastor, he was a companion, a guiding soul." Her words resonated deeply, touching the hidden emotions within everyone. As congregants took turns to share their thoughts, each came carrying private memories of him. A young man, who had received support from David during difficult times, spoke with a trembling voice. "Every time I felt lost, he always reminded me of love and purpose. He was my greatest encourager." His words pierced through the somber air, warming the hearts of all. The funeral lasted all day, filled with touching words, poems, and songs from loved ones. Rising in the music, the bond among people grew stronger than ever. They came together to honor David's life, reminiscing about the goodness he had brought. The community's heart seemed to knit back together, like leaves returning to the roots of an ancient tree. Inside the church, the atmosphere of love and unity permeated every corner. The congregation stood side by side, embracing one another in silence. It felt like a living painting, where every emotion was expressed more strongly through their vibrant memories of David. Each story contained a piece of his soul. Every recollection was a treasure they cherished. Finally, the time came when David's casket was carried out of the church. Flowers and flickering candles adorned the warm earth. Everyone stood together in a circle, holding hands in the silence. His presence lived on in their hearts, like a flame that would never be extinguished. Mary, with tears in her eyes but a steadfast gaze, spoke with deep emotion. "Let David's light guide us through dark nights. Let us walk the path he paved, bringing love and hope to everyone." Her words sounded like a promise, a reminder that everyone must hold within their hearts. The legacy. After the funeral, the St. John community realized that time continued to pass, but the legacy of Pastor David Jeremiah must be upheld. Mary, with strong leadership instincts, was determined not to let his name and teachings fade into mere memories. She called upon the community to unite, transforming their loss into a strength to continue the mission the pastor had initiated. "We must continue what he began. We need to continue to help one another," she passionately conveyed. She and a group of congregants organized meetings, brainstorming about activities they could undertake to remember the pastor. They decided to establish a charity fund named the David Jeremiah Fund, focusing on assisting struggling families in the community and supporting education for underprivileged children. As meetings unfolded, the atmosphere was lively with determination. Everyone felt that this was a way to preserve the image of a David who always yearned to help those in need. They collaborated to plan charity events, fundraising efforts, and large-scale gatherings to support benevolent activities. With more volunteers joining in, the voice of the community grew stronger. They organized breakfast gatherings, during which Mary shared stories about Pastor David, further embedding the values he taught. These discussions not only helped them recall memories but also created opportunities to nurture love and connections among members. Whenever a charity event was held, Mary would rise to inspire pride within the community. David once said, "We truly live when we live for others," she emphasized. "Let's always follow the good things he taught." Applause erupted, echoing the love they held for one another and the memory of David. Life within the community gradually recovered from the sorrow of loss. Charitable activities began to expand. They decided to create scholarship programs for underprivileged children, hoping to give them better opportunities to pursue their dreams. They organized enriching classes, including life skills lessons to teach kids independence and beneficial habits. Time flowed with fundraising events, classes, concerts, and charity meals. Mary once again became the focal point, igniting a spirit of unity and love. The charitable organization became a place of welcome for everyone, where they not only supported one another materially but also built strong bonds and deep friendships. Volunteers from afar also joined the efforts of the David Jeremiah Fund. They weren't just supporters but friends, continuing the values David instilled. Many couldn't forget the moments he embraced them, the heartfelt words of encouragement, and the beautiful dreams he had for them. As summer approached, a major event was organized to commemorate a year and a half since David's passing. The community gathered at a large park, where vibrant and lively activities could be seen. There were musical performances, cultural presentations, food stalls showcasing delightful dishes, all serving a singular purpose: to energize the community support programs. People sat together, enjoying delicious food, sharing laughter and memories of Pastor David. They couldn't help but recall the humorous stories, the sweetest moments he provided. Mary concluded the gathering with a heartfelt speech. "David is a living legacy. He sowed the seeds of kindness in each of our hearts, and now we are the caretakers of that fruit." All around the park, attendees felt a warm glow in their hearts. What Pastor David had done had become strength, pride, and motivation for the entire community. His image lived on in their minds, like candles lit in every heart. They understood that Pastor David's legacy was not just in his sermons or beautiful stories but also in the tangible actions they took to help one another. That was the value they preserved and expanded upon, transforming loss into strength to steadfastly move forward. The St. John community would always remember David as a guiding light in the darkness, the one who turned an entire community into a loving and hopeful family. The eternal light. In the months following Pastor David's death, the community gradually found itself recovering. Charitable activities were organized in many places, attracting attention not only from congregants but also from the surrounding community. Concerts were scheduled for every major holiday, because, as one leadership member of the fund said, "We need to bring joy to everyone." On a beautiful sunny afternoon, a significant event was held in St. John's Church, where David once preached. Everyone in the community wore matching uniforms, showcasing their spirit of unity and harmony. Thousands of smiles reflected not just painful memories but now illuminated the love and kindness that filled their hearts. Time did not cease. The David Jeremiah Fund gradually became a symbol of kinship, of community strength. Scholarships were raised to help hundreds of underprivileged children access education. Warm meals were provided for the homeless, and large volunteer programs attracted hundreds of young volunteers from all over. All these things embodied the light that Pastor David sowed in the souls of every member. When the annual celebration came, the community organized a special ceremony in his memory. Lanterns were lit, candles flickered, and the stories about him were shared once again. "We cannot forget," Mary said with determination in her eyes. "We must not allow him to leave in vain. We must continue to live by the values he taught us." Life continued to unfold, but Pastor David Jeremiah left an indelible mark on everyone he touched. His inspirations continued to radiate, like seeds sown in the soil, as a new season awaited. His face lived not just in photographs, but became part of every laughter, every hug, and every act of kindness people performed daily. Every time they saw a meal being shared, every time they saw smiles on the faces of children receiving scholarships, the St. John community understood that Pastor David Jeremiah lived on in these beautiful acts. He left more than just his Bible or his sermons. He embedded in each person's soul a powerful message, and the goodness would never end. David Jeremiah, born February 13, 1941, is an American evangelical Christian author, founder of Turning Point Radio and Television Ministries, and senior pastor of Shadow Mountain Community Church, a Southern Baptist megachurch in El Cajon, California, a suburb of San Diego. David Paul Jeremiah was born in Toledo, Ohio, in 1941 to Ruby and James T. Jeremiah. At the age of 11, his family, including his 3 siblings, moved to Dayton, Ohio, when his father became pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church. Then, in 1953, his family moved to Cedarville, Ohio, when his father became the new president of Cedarville College, now Cedarville University. Jeremiah earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from Cedarville College in 1963, and that same year he married his college sweetheart, Donna Thompson. He went on to earn a Master of Divinity degree from Dallas Theological Seminary, 1967, and completed additional graduate studies at Grace Seminary, 1972. Cedarville awarded him an honorary Doctor of Divinity degree in 1981. In 1994 and again in 1998, Jeremiah was diagnosed with lymphoma. In 1999, a tumor was surgically removed from his neck and he underwent stem cell therapy. The story of his experiences during that season is documented in his book, When Your World Falls Apart. In addition to serving as pastor of Shadow Mountain Community Church and leader of Turning Point for God, Jeremiah is an author and a frequent speaker at conferences, conventions, and universities, as well as at chapels for professional basketball and football teams. David and Donna Jeremiah have 4 grown children and are grandparents to 12 grandchildren. Jeremiah's eldest son, David Michael, is the president of Turning Point and a radio host. Jeremiah's other son, Daniel, is a former NFL scout and currently serves as an analyst for the NFL Network. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe to help motivate me to create more exciting videos. See you in